Here we got a black swallowtail enjoying some flowers on some chive plants. If you watched my previous video showing the garden during early spring, you saw lots of ephemerals like tulips and daffodils. Now you can see later in spring the garden's really growing and the honeysuckle plant here is flowering. Gets these cool trumpet-like flowers on it that even attract hummingbirds. The backyard is also where I have my veggie garden. I grow tomatoes, potatoes, onions, peppers, lots of beans this year, and in the distance there you can even see I've got asparagus plants. In the rest of the backyard I have planters for flowers like marigolds. I also have a lot of prairie plants. Here we have a prairie rose. And right behind it I have tucked away some harebell. And even though this is a city lot, I've managed to cram in a lot of fruit. I have strawberries as a ground cover in many places. I have red currant bushes which are starting to show some fruit. Here's some spiderwort flowers right next to a pear tree which is doing amazing this year. Here we have some prairie phlox. Here's some coreopsis, which is just flowering beautifully. Let's take the path here along the south side of the house where I've got some grapevines, tomato plants. You can see the grapevines are starting to show grape clusters. The south side of the house gets a lot of sun and it can be very dry. It's been interesting to see which plants have been really successful here. This Baptisia loves this spot. It is growing out of control. I had tried to plant herbs on this side, but it just doesn't work because the herbs always end up bolting. So we're coming here into the front yard. The front yard is mostly prairie plants and fruits. Here we got a spirea, which the bees absolutely love because it's always covered in bees. Here we have honeysuckle, one of my favorite plants. I love to eat the flowers. They're super sweet, and we had them around the house when I was growing up. Here we have some blanket flowers. Here we got some primroses with some wild geraniums interspersed. Here are some pasque flowers. They start off as purple flowers, but then they turn into these wispy flower heads. Similarly, here we have prairie smoke, which starts as these pink flowers, and then as they mature and make seed heads, they turn into these wispy, I often think of them almost looking like fireworks. Even though I don't have a large front yard, I've managed to cram in a bunch of blueberry plants which are starting to show their fruit. Here the Juneberry tree has also got fruit. And I also have a cherry tree. You can see that the cherries are starting to show as well. These peonies came with the house. They don't last very long, but they are amazing flowers. Here's another one that's really showy but doesn't last very long, the iris. The reason why I have so many prairie plants in my yard is because it's hard to keep grass alive. My lawn doesn't get a lot of shade, and right now we're even in a drought. We've had weeks of 80s and 90s, and the only rain we've had is this brief little shower that we got one afternoon. If we can get some more rain, I think this summer the garden is really going to flower and be amazing.